Welcome into DC On Screen, your guide to the DC Universe properties on film and television. I am your host, David C. Robertson, and this, my co-host, the man who advised President Monroe to buy new dancing shoes for the era of good feelings, Jason Goss.
Hi, very proud of my work.
Those were good times.
They were.
Watching the two-party system die.
Uh-huh.
Thank God that never came back.
Right. Good thing that never haunted us.
So this is episode 239 of DC On Screen. It is our first exclusively DCEU film news episode. So the opinions are in, and the vast majority of our listeners want DCU and DC TV news split. So that's what we're doing. Don't ever say we didn't do something for you.
We're here for you.
Alright, we're going to jump off news with Kevin Conroy's favorite Batman. That's at least what they're calling it in the headlines. He was a little cagey, though. He said, each actor brings such a different art to the character, it's really fun. I think Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne was probably the best Bruce Wayne. I think the voice he used for Batman was bizarre.
He would know.
He did say that Ben Affleck's performance was wonderful. He said he does really well on both Batman and Bruce Wayne. And just to cap off this news, he says Mark Hamill was the best Joker. But we already knew that. So
that voice alone, even disembodied, I don't care if I ever get to see it live, was outstanding in its field.
Mm-hmm. So big news for Batman fans. If you are an HBO subscriber, starting November 1st, they're going to be doing Batman, Batman Returns, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, Batman The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2, Batman Under the Red Hood, Batman Year 1, and Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, the theatrical cut, not the extended edition.
Okay, aside from the last part being, we wish you'd do the extended edition, and if they're doing it in order, I'd rather them do Year 1 before Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's all coming out November 1st, I think, except for Batman v Superman, which is like November 26th.
Okay, good. All right, so they're dropping everything for you?
Yeah.
All right, word of advice. Watch Year 1 and then hit Dark Knight Returns.
You don't have to. They're standalone.
They are standalone, and if you prefer to like see where the story ends and do a prequel, if you want to George Lucas it, hit it up that way. But if you want to just watch progression in time, that would be the way to go. But man, that's a hell of a gift for HBO people.
It's good stuff.
Laugh your way through the early stuff and then see it get real.
We're gonna jump back in time to the Dark Knight because Heath Ledger's home has been in the news recently. It was apparently a creepy shrine to the Joker, they're saying. They're saying it was immaculately clean and organized, but there were clown statues, comics, literature on the Joker, and recordings of Ledger practicing the voice to make it distinctive.
It just sounds like a method actor's house.
That's what it sounded like to me. I don't know.
I would love to actually get a glimpse at it, to be honest, but
I would too.
And as far as he had a neat voice, he had a neat take on the voice. I would like to hear the development of that. That it would be kind of fascinating.
Yeah, I'd like to hear the development before he just decided to do Tom Waits.
Right.
Over to Batman v Superman, Frank Miller was asked how he would make a Batman film, and he says, my dream would be to make it much smaller, to lose the toys and to focus more on the mission, and to use the city a great deal more, because he's got a loving relationship with the city he's protecting. And unlike Superman, his connection to crime is intimate. It has been ever since his parents were murdered, and he defeats criminals with his hands. So it would be a different take, but it will never be in my hands, because it would not be a good place to make toys from. There wouldn't be a line of toys. This is a Variety interview, by the way, with Nick Vivarelli. So, yeah. And Nick asks him, is this how you approached it with Darren Aronofsky on the Batman movie project that Warner Brothers never made? And Miller says, that screenplay was based on my book Batman Year 1, and yeah, it was much more down to earth. In it, a fair amount of time is spent before he became Batman, and when he went out and fought crime, he really screwed it up a bunch of times before he got it right. It was a 90-minute origin story. Nick asks him, have you seen Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice? He says, yes. He says, what did you think? Miller says, I'll just say thanks. What can I say? No, actually, I'll withdraw that. I'll say you're welcome.
There's so many ways to take that.
It's Frank Miller. I think there's only one way to take it.
Yeah.
Over to Suicide Squad. Michael Rowe, who played Deadshot on Arrow, recently reviewed Suicide Squad. he says, I was really rooting for that movie to do well and to be something special. It is what it is. I'll leave it at that.
Wow.
Yeah. Now they released a Suicide Squad extended cut trailer. Another one. It's just showcasing a lot more Joker and Harley primarily, but we do get to see Katana take off her mask, so it looks like we're going to get a little bit more of her at least. But again, this is only going to be what was it? 11 minutes of footage? 10 minutes of footage? So, no,
it was 11 and some change. Yeah, it was 11 and some change.
So, they have announced all the different Suicide Squad Blu-ray editions. So we're going to jump through those really quick here. Target has the extended cut, the Blu-ray extended cut, with a 64-page collectible digibook, a special special lenticular packaging. The book apparently expands the DC Comics characters in a feature film with photography and custom cover art. The 3-disc edition includes the extended cut and the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad on Blu-ray and digital HD, as well as the theatrical version on DVD. It is going to be $24.95. The Best Buy version, there's a Best Buy version that has 4K Blu-ray. It's a Steelbook edition. Mm-hmm. So that's the 4K Blu-ray with HDR Dolby Atmos Blu-ray and digital HD with 2 cuts of the film, $34.99. Best Buy also has the Suicide Squad Blu-ray Steelbook with graphic novel. That's going to be 1080p Blu-ray with Steelbook packaging, printed graphic novel, 3-disc combo, theatrical cut, Blu-ray with extended cut, DVD of theatrical cut, and digital HD copy. It's $37.99. Then we go to Amazon, who has the most expensive version, exclusive figurine versions.
They do that.
Oh my lord. This thing is $116.99.
Sounds right.
List priced at $129. 2-disc edition with Blu-ray, DVD, and digital HD copy with a Harley Quinn figurine or a Deadshot figurine.
I think there's going to be a lot more Harleys than Deadshot, probably.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at the special features, we're dealing with Task Force X, One Team, One Mission, Chasing the Real, Joker and Harley, It Couple of the Underworld, Squad Strength and Speed, Armed to the Teeth, This Is Gonna Get Loud, The Epic Battles of Suicide Squad, The Squad Declassified, and Gag Reel. So yeah, and moving right along.
Special features are going to be pretty much available. The extra footage is available pretty much anywhere you're getting the good version of it.
Mm-hmm. Moving right along, Christian Lawrence Schurer, who was a concept artist on Suicide Squad, posted a bunch of images online. Did you get a chance to see all of those?
Yes.
You saw all of those, right?
Oh, yes.
Well, consider yourself lucky because a whole bunch of them were taken down.
That's a shame.
It is.
It was inspiring, and there's a lot of it that I wish had stayed, and
mm-hmm.
God, his Joker reminded me the closest to the Azzarello Joker. It was really close to that thing, but man, it was gorgeous.
Yeah, the artwork with him. Okay, there's artwork with Joker carrying Harley. I think that stayed around. Actually, no. The last time I looked on his website, everything but a very small selection of the Enchantress designs he did were up. But a few days ago, guys, he had stuff. I mean, it was a vastly different movie. He had one that was like, he had a couple of different...
There was a few dozen images, wasn't it? I mean...
Yeah.
30,
he had a
50
couple that were... There was a lot. And he had a couple that was just Joker and Harley. It was Joker carrying Harley. Mm-hmm. And it was called Wedding or something.
Mm-hmm.
Clown Wedding, something like that. And I thought I was going to be able to go back and get all this information, but I wasn't. Since it was taken down. But this is like a classic rendition of the Joker. It does not look like Leto's Joker. Doesn't look like Margot's Harley. What's really interesting is that the artwork that was up right there in the captions says that Enchantress is opening a boom tube. It shows her opening a boom tube. Mm-hmm. The SEAL team members had turned into parademons.
Yeah. I mean, there were clearly a lot of ideas pitched previous to him picking up a pen.
Yeah, and you know what? It had to have been, for concept art that detailed, it had to at least be a full script he was working from, I would think.
It could be a treatment. Easy. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
maybe,
detailed work, but he was also his particular style is very detailed. These aren't just rough sketches of anything. It doesn't look like he works that way at all. I mean, some of this was geometrically fascinating. Like the Enchantress dresses were absolutely mathematically fascinating. They were fantastic.
I could deal without the nipple eyes. but I mean, they were showing, and I don't know if this was Incubus or if it was a new god or what. He just says he was just called God several different times. A god. It looked like some sort of a godlike creature with armor. So it may have been Incubus, but like inside you could see like what looked like hands, like inside of this dude's body. He had armor all over him. He had like a big staff. He looked. Someone pointed out he looked a little like Steppenwolf. I didn't really agree with that. But he had armored and non-armored versions of this cat. It looked very psychedelic, very trippy, and God, like that link with Enchantress to Apocalypse, kind of way better than what we actually got. I actually like Suicide Squad the movie way less now because of what we almost got.
Yeah, it looked like they had ideas of tying it over into the greater universe and Justice League Part 1 and 2 and trying to set up boom tubes and a couple other things and for whatever reason thought better of it. But and look, that's how these things work. I'm not even holding it against them. When you're pitching ideas, you pitch. It's anything you've ever done. When you're every essay you've ever written, every creative writing exercise, especially you brainstorm and you think big and then you pull back.
Sure,
but it's a shame the boom tube
really
got
awesome.
taken out. Yeah. But there were new gods.
So I understand, but oh man, what an interesting thing this Suicide Squad could have been. It could have been the movie that actually just and you know what, the critics would have hated it for that. They would have been like, it doesn't make any sense, all this new god bullshit. Anyway,
yeah. There's always going to be a song those guys are going to play though.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on to Wonder Woman. Apparently a new Wonder Woman trailer has been classified. It will run it has been approved for all audiences. It's going to be running 2 minutes and 24 seconds. It should show up in the next month, 1 to 6 weeks, I would say. Well, the article would say. But it's the way it is. It is the way it is.
It's legitimate. It's not bad information.
Right. The big guess is it'll be on either Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them or Doctor Strange. Probably both. And
I've been to many a Marvel movie hoping that the new Warner Brothers product was going to be pitched and been disappointed. It may or may not be. Nothing.
Yeah.
I think you definitely have it by Fantastic Beasts because that's a Warner Brother property. And I'll be damned if it's not really cheap to pimp your own properties in trailers.
Right.
I think it's pretty much overhead that you pay for in that. But they may or may not put up the money to put it in front of Doctor Strange. They know it's going to be a big movie, but he is a little bit of a taking a chance kind of thing. Even with Cumberbatch, he's taken a chance.
Not even anyway. Not anymore. That shit. He's like Doctor Strange has broken records for opening day internationally.
Oh, has he?
At this point.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm not.
Don't get me wrong. I literally already have my tickets. I'm there. I'm doing my part.
I don't. I'll see it later. But
me and the wife are going to be there, and I kind of said, "Well, do you want to go see the new movie with the comic books?" And I always get that kind of indifferent look of, "What's your selling point?" It's Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm there. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. I'm not. I will see Doctor Strange in theaters. I will. I just don't know when.
I will see it Thursday at 7:00.
I saw Civil War
Central.
some month and a half later, so
yeah, it took me about 2 weeks to get around to it, but
yeah,
I have time and I'm going to do it.
So over to the theatrical version of The Flash here. It was reported that dope costume designer Patrik Milani was joining Rick Famuyiwa for The Flash. However, today it was widely dropped that Rick Famuyiwa has left The Flash. This is the second director The Flash has lost.
That's getting a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Are we at the point where we just say to Kevin Smith, you've made 2 good Flash episodes? it's time to step up and make an hour-and-a-half episode.
Maybe. Famuyiwa had this to say: when I was approached by Warner Brothers in DC about the possibility of directing The Flash, I was excited about the opportunity to enter this amazing world of characters that I loved growing up and still do to this day. I was also excited to work with Ezra Miller, who is a phenomenal young actor. I pitched a version of the movie in line with my voice, humor, and heart. While it's disappointing that we couldn't come together creatively on the project, I remain grateful for the opportunity. I will continue to look for opportunities to tell stories that speak to a fresh generational, topical, and multicultural point of view. I wish Warner Brothers DC, John Berg, Jeff Johns, and Ezra Miller all the best as they continue their journey into the Speed Force.
That sounds very amenable.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe it might be as simple as a case of the first guy left. Maybe it's coincidence. The first guy maybe left because he had his own internal problems with what was going on, and maybe this guy's problem has a little bit to do with the Batman vs Superman side effects. And admittedly, I don't know. Finally had to admit that there are absolute consequences of that movie's reception. So maybe it is just a matter of wrong place, wrong time for one guy, and one guy not getting along, and it happens to be two now, and maybe we shouldn't worry as much. But man, two directors leaving is scary.
Well, Mark Hughes at Forbes put out a tweet.
Are you dressed as a pirate right now?
He put out a tweet probably an hour ago saying that for the worried fans, he's going to have an article about what's going on with DCEU and with Flash. Mark Hughes has, ever since before Batman v Superman, has been the prevailing voice of calm amongst the DC fans. Some say to a fault, but he always writes really... Yeah, they do. But you know what? He always writes really well thought out, really measured articles. And he talks to the people who comment in his article too. Like he's in the comment section talking to people.
Good for him.
So yeah, I give him a lot of.
If that's how he operates, I'll give Warner Brothers a little bit of credit for picking the right guy for that job.
Oh, Mark Hughes? Mm-hmm. He's just a writer for Forbes. He's not associated with DC or with WB.
Well, it's his own mission then. It's actually more impressive.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big superhero fan. He was just covering Doctor Strange, so he's all aboard Doctor Strange. He's given it glaringly positive reviews. So, yeah, he's going to have an article. We'll cover it next week on the show. I don't know what to think about this. I think that WB has got to stop having creative differences with people when they keep claiming they're a director-driven studio. Either tell us the truth that you have a guiding hand and you're willing to let someone go if they don't fit into your mold, or actually let these people make the movie they want to make and fail.
Maybe not. It may just be a matter of quantity. I don't have a count of how many times that's happened in Marvel's world, but I remember at least Edgar Wright.
Yes,
and they haven't really had to account for apologize for that.
I'm glad you brought up. He's in production on a couple of different things right now. But I can't think of anyone better to make a Flash movie than Edgar Wright.
Than Edgar Penn Wright? Absolutely not.
Yeah. But look, I know Marvel. Look, I have no problem saying that Marvel is a studio-led company. The problem is that they've proven themselves. I trust that studio to do whatever. Kick a director out. They were wrong for the project. You know what I mean? Like,
there are elements of Ant-Man, but I still look at it and go, yep. Edgar Wright wrote that page. You directed it. But
yeah.
I know that.
Like our buddy Matt over at the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. He's still groaning about Edgar Wright. Oh, I keep wondering what it would be like. No, you can't do that. He wasn't right for the... How can you say that? Because Marvel has done so well. They've done so well for us.
Their track record says that if they and the director disagreed, it was probably in the best interest to get rid of him.
I love DC.
To split it.
I love DC. I love that the books are killing it right now.
Oh, they are.
On the top of the sales. Yeah. Love all of that. That said, Warner Brothers kind of worries me a bit. And I don't believe this director-driven bullshit anymore. I just don't.
I'm 2 directors
Save
down
us, Mark Forbes.
On a Flash movie, and I'm just not buying it anymore. Yeah. Is that where you are?
Yeah. Save us, Mark Forbes. Tell me why I shouldn't be worried.
Yeah.
Please. Anyway. Moving over to the Batman, Teresa Palmer is apparently lobbying, campaigning to get a chance at playing Talia al Ghul in the Batman. Now, she was almost Talia in George Miller's Justice League Mortal. Obviously, that project didn't go through. Mm-hmm. Now, according to the Wrap, who usually has a pretty good notion of what's happening, this is where Humberto Gonzalez wound up from Heroic Hollywood. He says Warner Brothers has no plans to include Talia al Ghul, nor her father Ra's in the Batman, or any other DCEU movie for the foreseeable future. So we don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely wise, I think.
Yeah.
I've said before that they're not the most interesting characters available, and
they're not.
They're overused right now. Just at this moment.
They are.
I hate to talk about
Let's
saturation,
get a little distance.
But they're overused.
Let's get a little distance from the Dark Knight trilogy.
And Arrow.
Absolutely. I mean, Talia's not on Arrow. But,
no, she's not. But they pulled in Nyssa just to... that proves my point. They pulled in Nyssa just to not have used Talia again.
Yeah, well. So, a couple of weeks ago, we got word from Joe Manganiello that the Batman was going to be shooting in the spring. Jeremy Irons is saying that it's going to shoot in summertime. He talked, in fact, with Brett Lang at Variety about Batman and Justice League. Brent says, "Do you find bigger films like Batman v Superman as fulfilling as the smaller projects?" He says, "Less so, because they're so slow. There's a lot of waiting around and then a huge amount of publicity. One spends 70% of the time doing publicity, 10% of the time filming, and 20% of the time waiting. I love working with Ben and Zack Snyder. They've been fun." Brent says, "What was your approach to Alfred? He seems more a man of action than previous takes on the character." Jeremy says, "I remember an evening with Paul Getty, who was a neighbor of mine, now sadly dead. We drove up to his lovely house. A very nice gentleman opened up the car door. Then another very nice gentleman took the car and parked it somewhere. Another nice gentleman took my coat, and then another nice gentleman gave me a glass of champagne. And all those nice gentlemen were SAS. I thought, that's Alfred. He's a man who will take care of his boss, whether he's making coffee or pouring champagne or flying his airplane." Brent asks, nice. When will he have more to do in Justice League than he did in Batman v Superman? Jeremy says, "Similar, but then, of course, Ben's going to make a Batman film next summer. He promises me there's going to be a bit more of Alfred in that. In the Justice League, we have 7 major lead characters, and I'm the butler to one of them. It's clear I will not be dominating that film."
That's realistic. I'm sorry.
Right. Finally, Brent says, "Were you upset by the harsh reviews for Batman v Superman?" He says, "Not at all. I was very pleased by the numbers. Zack seems to get a hard time from the press, which is strange. I don't know if it has to do with the sort of secrecy that surrounds the making of it all, but the audience liked it, which in the end is all that matters." Now, this is somewhat contradictory to what he said when the film first came out, when he was like, "Oh, it was a bit muddled, blah." And that it deserved to have the bad reviews and stuff. But, I'm sure someone got a pizzazz about that, so.
Even still, you can watch something again, or you can think about it for a while and decide differently.
Sure. Absolutely. But it's a cool interview, and there's a lot more to it that didn't have to do with DC, that has to do with his current projects and his method of acting. And actually, there was a quote in there that I almost left in, but it doesn't really have anything to do about how acting is very easy. And he just kind of comes off as snide, but it was funny.
Fair enough. I just like his breakdown of the percentage. That sounds really deadly accurate for a big one of these kinds of big films.
Mm-hmm. So Doug Liman is talking about Dark Universe, or Justice League Dark. He was asked, "Are you excited about working on that?" He says, "Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love those characters, and I love Warner Brothers, and I love Scott Rudin, and it's, I get asked to come in and do things that are unconventional. If people want conventional, they don't come to me. It's why doing Invisible was like right up my alley, because how can you be conventional when there aren't even conventions that exist? And so when Warner Brothers wants to sort of turn the comic book genre on its head, they call me." And IGN says, "Would you say that's the goal with Dark Universe?" He says, "Yeah." It's like, how do you fundamentally reinvent what people are doing? And that's the good and the bad news of this sort of box they've put me in, or I've been put in. I mean, you'd think it was by design, but it wasn't. It is exactly what I should be doing, but I'm just so grateful that sometimes I'm working on a project and I pitch an idea that's too conventional, and the producers will say to me, that's not Doug Liman enough, which is like a weird thing because I'm like, well, it was my idea. How can you say it's not me? And they're like, no, because when we think of you, we think of like, that just seems too ordinary. So even if I wanted to be a little bit more conventional, like the system don't want me to be, but since I do treat every project as a form of a film school, okay, I haven't done that genre, and how am I going to do it, and how am I going to do it in a way that no one's done it before? So that's, I haven't done a comic book film, and am I going to do it in a new way that's unlike what anyone else has ever done, and come up with a couple of rules for myself of what we're not going to do that other people do? That just automatically puts you on a new track. Same way with the Bourne Identity. I promised myself I wasn't going to have a WIJ, which is a term they use in film school. W-I-J, Woman in Jeopardy. I went to USC Film School briefly, which is a very traditional film school, and a lot of the graduates end up making big Hollywood movies. And they're like, look, the third act you have a WIJ. All movies have a WIJ in the third act. A woman in jeopardy. That's how you know you're in the third act, is a woman in jeopardy. And going into the Bourne Identity, I told Matt Damon on day one, when I met him the first time to convince him to do the movie, I was like, we're not going to have a WIJ. I didn't have a script yet. I said, I'm not going to have a WIJ. We're just not going to take the woman hostage. I don't know how I'm going to end the movie, but I can tell you right now, the CIA is not going to grab Franca Potent. Mm-hmm. And IGN says, so the same rule applies going forward. And he's like, yeah, and then you figure out, well, these rules sometimes exist for a reason. The cliches exist for a reason, because we actually were having trouble ending Bourne Identity. And I was like, at some point I was like, fuck, the CIA should just grab her. It solves all of our problems. I was like, there's a reason there's that rule. And Matt was like, you promised me no WIJ. And I was like, you're right, I did promise you no WIJ. Okay, back to the drawing board.
I'll find a way, Matt.
So I have some rules like that for myself for Dark Universe, and the beauty of Invisible is I didn't have to rebel against anything else, because there just wasn't anything else. It must have been like making movies in the 20s or things like that, where you just like make the rules. And I do want to mention this. He says, IGN says, is Edge of Tomorrow still underway? And he goes, yeah. And IGN says, that's exciting. And Liman says, yeah, I'm going to revolutionize how people make sequels. And IGN says, I would love for you to expand on that. And Liman says, I can't, but it will. You mark my words. I liked Edge of Tomorrow. I really did. I like this guy's gumption.
That's
like,
he's got a sack
those are
on
balls
him.
Right there. Yeah. I liked Edge of Tomorrow. It was an interesting film, and I don't like Tom Cruise, so for me to say Edge of Tomorrow was good, that you should take that at the bank.
Right.
I didn't even know they were going to do Edge of Tomorrow too.
I just kind of like that they. At this point, he's like disappointed when he goes to pitch an idea, and the studios, of all people, the studio people say, "Oh, well, you didn't blow my mind enough."
So I like his gumption, man. I'm a little afraid they're going to have creative differences.
Yeah,
because I want to see what he does with Justice League Dark.
Yeah, I agree.
So on that intriguing note, we finish out our movie news. Yeah,
dear Lord. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Before we end our first exclusively DCEU news episode, though, we did have one review this week from Superhero Ethics. They say, like having a beer with friends after watching a show, some of my favorite memories from college were watching superhero movies or TV shows with my friends and then spending hours afterward talking about them. What we liked, what we hated, what did or didn't fit the canon, how we thought it set up the next episode or movie, etc. This podcast is like one of those discussions. They are funny, insightful, and make me excited to watch DC things just so I can hear their take on it. That is very nice. Thank you, dude.
That is.
Now,
if we ever convince him to watch Lucifer, that's like a life accomplishment.
Right. This guy actually messaged us on Facebook. He has his own podcast, he and his buddy, and it's called Superhero Ethics. And I actually got a chance to listen to one episode this week. They have an episode out. I think it's the newest episode called Killing President Luthor. They talk about the ethics of Superman taking down Lex Luthor. Now, I do highly recommend this podcast, but I will say it's going to have to be one of those situations where I say the views of the Superhero Ethics do not necessarily represent the views of DC on screen. We've gone to great lengths to say that we don't support any political party. We don't want to talk about what our political views are. Hell, half the time, I'm not even sure we know what our political views are completely.
It's so vague.
It's so vague and anger-filled, but we just stay away from it on the show. Superhero ethics, though, they get deep into their own political shit, man. Like, they're just saying whatever the hell they feel like. They even, on that episode, they were actually, the one I listened to, they were actually cracking about, like, hey, look, you don't have to be super liberal to listen to this show, because they are very, very anti-Trump, and almost, like, very, like, I think the host of the show, he actually called himself an anarchist, so, like, just very anti-government. And it was a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, because they're joking about, like, the title of their episode being Killing President Luthor. And they're like, we shouldn't be talking about killing the president. Like, we're going to have NSA show up at our door. And it's like, as they're talking about it, the police actually show up at the guy's door because some neighbor called him in, and we're like, there's fighting. And there's like, no, we were arguing. We're on a podcast. It's not that way.
Yeah, that was
very interesting podcast, though. I had a lot of fun listening to it.
I heard the same one. Yeah, they're good. I kind of, all right, given how he related, I enjoyed those conversations too. Like I got a philosophy degree or my minor, and damn it, man, I love those kind of, they really are the most poignant and pointless conversations you can possibly have.
Yeah.
Where you can literally take a side just because you think it's fun, try to argue it as best you can, and then just for no damn good reason, switch sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like this was one of those conversations that I would have gladly had, where you walk out of a philosophy class, you're talking to somebody, you sit down for a cup of coffee, you don't realize that your coffee's even cold, and you're still fucking arguing with each other. There's no hate there. You're just arguing for the fun of arguing. It's rhetoric. Yeah. But I enjoyed the hell out of that aspect of this. And it's one of the things I've always loved about comics, man, is these people aren't just... They're not just characters. They don't have just personal motivations. I love exploring all the personal motivations, and that's the psychology in me. But I love exploring the philosophy of what a Superman should or shouldn't do, and what a Batman should or shouldn't do. Those are some of my favorite topics. Yeah. And, God, me and you have spent hours bullshitting about them. It was fun to hear somebody else bullshit about them for a little while.
It was a lot of fun. And like I said, you don't have to agree with them and their political beliefs. Which they do tout over and over again.
No, and anybody that wants to, ask me privately about my political beliefs, I'll, be happy to tell you whatever bullshit I've come up with that week, because we live in a strange world and you just have to adjust constantly. But, overall, just keep an open mind and listen to these guys, and you're going to explore a lot of viewpoints. And that's more important than having beliefs, I promise you.
One of my favorite bits from the show was near the end, where one guy's like, "If you wanna tell us how you're wrong,
write us at."
And they both crack up. He's like, "Yeah, I mixed up my pronouns. It was a subject." I'm like, "Oh, good grammar humor too. Okay." So I look forward to listening to more of these guys. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they were.
Sorry, I can't remember names. I'm real bad with names. I'll have to go back and look at the message. I didn't prepare. I didn't prepare properly because I'm a shitty host, as we've ascertained the entire way. By the way, Rick GRX, the winner of the second giveaway, did get in contact with us, and his request was Batman Hush.
Good request.
Amazon, absolutely. Amazon informed me it was delivered earlier this week, so you too could be a winner, like Rick and John before him. Leave us a 5-star written review on iTunes, and you'll be entered into the contest. 1 in 10 wins a $15 DC Comics trade paperback, DVD, or Blu-ray of your choice. So do that. We're going to come right back with a DC TV news episode. Thank you for listening to DC On Screen. You can find every episode at DCOnScreen.com. We are on Facebook and Twitter. Twitter. I feel like I'm not saying that. Twitter at DC On Screen. You can contact the show through those means or by emailing us at dconscreen@gmail.com. You can also contact me via Twitter at David C. Robertson. One word. Until next time, guys, keep some DC on your screen.